Ooh, more of my dumb uploading. Woo! But, I've realized that I've been awfully quiet lately, and you need to turn the volume full up when I speak. And I'm sorry about that. It's just my audio. I'm talking as loud as I can right now without other people looking at me thinking I'm crazy. So you're gonna have to turn your volume up. Headphone users, I don't know. I don't have headphones. But anyway, um gonna keep doing this, even though y'all think I'm super annoying. Vagabond Part 3. Pinkie Pie trotted into the kitchen where Fluttershy was busy chopping up some fruit. Hi, Fluttershy. What you doing? Pinkie asked. Fluttershy jumped several inches into the air but managed not to drop the knife. Oh, Pinkie, you shouldn't sneak up on anybody like that, Fluttershy said, looking down at the knife. I know that Vagabond will have to be here for a while, and if he is, Big Milk will be too, so that will be 3 ponies I'll have to feed for a while. Fluttershy paused to take a breath. So, I thought I could get a head start on the food. Pinkie Pie, would you be willing to help me? If you don't mind, that is, Fluttershy asked. Sure thing, Pinkie Pie said, bouncing just like always. Fluttershy passed Pinkie Pie a knife and a bowl and a pile of fruit. The two friends began cutting, slicing, and chopping every piece of fruit they could get their hooves on. Big Macintosh carried Vagabond back into Fluttershy's front room and set him down gently on the couch. Vagabond was in immense pain. Pain, however, was an old friend to him, and he tried to just endure it. Vagabond looked up at the massive red pony. I heard Pinkie calling you Big Macintosh. Is that what you like being called, or is there something shorter? Big Mac's fine with me, he said. Big Mac's fine with me, he said. Vagabond nodded. Big Mac it is, then. And you're called Vagabond? Big Macintosh asked. That I am, Vagabond answered uncertainly. Do I have to worry about you hurting any pony here? Big Mac asked. No, Vagabond said simply. Big Macintosh looked sternly down at the injured blue form of Pegasus. Good. You behave yourself and we'll get on just fine. Someone was knocking on Fluttershy's door yet again. Big Mac casually walked over and opened the door. Dr. Menwas nodded at the massively built stallion. Good afternoon, Big Macintosh. Is Fluttershy in? I was hoping I could check up on the patient. You could probably use another dose of painkillers, Dr. Men said as Big Macintosh stepped aside to let Dr. Men in. The doctor then noticed Vagabond staring at him. You're awake? He asked, eyes wide. That I am, sir, Vagabond responded. Don't call me sir. You may address me as Dr. Mend, he said, putting his bag down next to the couch. How do you feel? Dr. Mend asked, shining a light into Vagabond's eyes. I'm very hungry and in quite a lot of pain, Vagabond responded. Dr. Mend's eyebrows arched in surprise. Didn't the girls give you the medicine I left? I have no idea. I haven't had anything since I awoke, Vagabond said almost too evenly. I'll give you something after you've eaten, Dr. Mend said after noticing something odd. You're sweating. How bad is the pain? Probably close to the worst I've ever felt, physically, Vagabond said to himself and grunt the words since Dr. Men had noticed the precipitation. And yet, you're calm? Dr. Men asked, puzzled. I'm used to it. To a point, Vagabond said. Dr. Men was about to ask what Vagabond meant when Pinkie Pie walked over carrying a big bowl of fruit and salad on her back. Hi, Dr. Men, she said, greeting in passing. The older stallion, normally very tattooed, smiled warmly to the pink pony. Oh, hello, Pinkie Pie. I didn't know you were here. Yeah, she said, setting the bowl down in front of the room table. I'm helping take care of the Vagabond here, she said, reaching down to the kitchen. Dr. Men smiled at the work pony. Thank you for letting me in, Big Macintosh. Would you be so kind to tell Fluttershy that I'm in? Yup, Big Mac said, turning towards the kitchen. As soon as Big Mac departed, Dr. Men turned to face Vagabond. Dr. Men's was a thunderhead. You are called Vagabond? Yeah, seriously. Vagabond nodded. I am. Dr. Men narrowed his eyes dangerously. That title is only placed upon those suffering prolonged punishment for the most serious crimes. I'm not legally allowed to ask for specifics. But what was the crime? Vagabond clenched his jaw and closed his eyes. Involuntary, unlawful act of pony slaughter, said crisply. All right, let me tell you something, Dr. Man, sitting in Vagabond's face with gritted teeth. The filly who has taken you in is the sweetest pony I've ever known, and the rest of her friends are close up there. If you so much as say a harsh word to any of them, I'll make sure you receive an injury that will never heal. Dr. Men took a deep breath and sat back. His smile was seemingly warm, but there was a diamond edge to his stare. It's nothing personal, but I wouldn't let hurt a single pony here, especially these fillies. Do we have an understanding, Vagabond? He asked coldly, placing an extra emphasis on the last word. Vagabond's eyes expression went completely blank, all life pulled out of it. I've never intentionally hurt any pony, and I do not plan to start now, he hissed angrily. Well, that's good, Pinkie Pie said, showing a large ball of fruit in Vagabond's muzzle. Dr. Men looked up and stared quickly, smoothed over his expression. I didn't see you here, Pinkie Pie. Well, duh! I mean, it's rude to butt into a conversation, so I just watched you until you two looked like you were done, Pinkie said, trotting back into the kitchen. Are you staying for lunch, Dr. Men? She called. Thank you, no, Dr. Men called back to her. Then he slowly stood up and whispered to Vagabond. Remember what I said. Dr. Men turned to leave before he reached for the door. Big Mac held it open for him. Oh, Dr. Men was surprised. I didn't hear you return, Big Macintosh. Something on the table by the door caught Dr. Men's eye, and he snatched it away in his backpack. Thank you. I'll be by tomorrow to change his bandage. Good afternoon, Dr. Men decided and departed. Big Macintosh closed the door. Vagabond absently noticed Dr. Men never gave him the pain medication. He gritted his teeth for a brief moment before trying to calm himself down. He shifted slightly as the bandage rubbed against his wing stumps. The pain was intense. Vagabond's eyes watered, rubbing it felt like a cheese grater against his already tender skin. Endure it, he concentrated. You deserve every second of it. His mind began to drift. The pain was bringing him in a numbing haze. Vagabond's mind recalled the time where others had said words to him. Criminal! Monster! Suffer! Suffer and die! Die slowly and alone! Die! 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 The chant played over and over again. In the last moments of his town he stood before them, were begging for forgiveness, claiming his sorrows over the action. Vagabond threw up his well-built and well-used emotional wall and steeled his will. Stop that! Your pathetic tears help nothing, and they will help you nothing now. He scolded himself silently through tightly closed eyes and gritted, Suck it up, you worthless monster. Show these kind bonies how grateful you are. His mind began to slow. The pain receded. They are the first to show you any compassion since you killed Abacus. Don't you dare throw that in their faces. They have given you more than you deserve, and you know it. The care they're giving you should be some pony who deserves it, but they chose to help you. Vagabond finally focused on his thoughts enough to open his eyes. The bowl of fruit salad on the table smelled heavenly, and the pain had receded somewhat. His mouth began to water, but he noticed that Big Mac had laid down on the floor and was staring at him. What? Have I done something wrong? Vagabond asked. Not that I've seen, Big Mac said simply. Vagabond was puzzled. It was an odd statement, surprising and complex for his brevity. Vagabond pondered at his possible explanations and finally settled to an assumption which seemed likely. What he means is that he hasn't seen me doing anything wrong. I think he's also saying that he's going to judge me on what he actually sees me do. The whole who you are, not who you were thing. Big Mac, Vagabond asked. Big Mac raised his eyebrow in a response, so Vagabond continued. Thank you, Vagabond said, stuttering. Truly, thank you. Yup. Fluttershy was getting frustrated. What are you not telling me, Rainbow Dash? She asked. Rainbow Dash didn't look her friend in the eye. I'm not leaving anything else, she exasperated. I told you everything that happened with Vagabond. What kind of name is that anyway? Rainbow Dash said, changing the subject. Twilight began to pace as she explained. It's not the name, per se. It's a title. A title? You mean he's famous? Dash asked. Twilight shook her head. More like infamous. The title, Vagabond, was only based on some pony who committed a serious crime. It doesn't happen often. Generally, it's bestowed on when a death is involved. Vagabond means wanderer, or more specifically, one without a home. A pony whose name is Vagabond and is exiled from their home and travels continuously, doing everything in their power to atone for the crime. Most ponies who commit such a crime do intentionally nothing and don't care until they realize the spirit of their victim is tied into them. The spirit of the victim flinches and torments the Vagabond constantly until the spirit forgives the one who caused their death. When is that normally? Dash asked. Twilight shuddered slightly. Usually when the Vagabond dies, which tends to happen with a week or two, which is why Vagabond here you found me puzzle me. He's been a Vagabond for 5 years. That's really unusual. Why haven't I heard about this before? Rainbow Dash asked. It doesn't come up often because ponies don't die of natural, because most ponies die of natural causes. Besides, who wants to talk about a death and misery when there's so much life to live? Twilight said. Have any vagabonds been forgiven and lived? Rainbow Dash asked. Twilight nodded sagely. Yes, there are 4 historically, in every case. Once the vagabond was forgiven, they went out to live their lives normally. Also in every case, the spirit of the victim tasked a different pony to tell the vagabond he or she was forgiven. I thought that maybe the spirit told you, but it looks like Vagabond isn't done with his punishment. Can you tell me anything about the ponies who had to tell the vagabonds they were forgiven? Rainbow Dash asked. Twilight looked askance at his friend. Did you decide to change your story? She asked. Rainbow Dash made a rude noise. No, I'm just curious. I'll have to look it up. I'll let you know if I find anything, Twilight said. Even though I know you're not telling me everything, she thought. Thanks, Twilight. I have to go. See you later, though, Dash said, flying out the window. Twilight began to research immediately. Spike was out visiting Rarity again. Twilight decided not to rush him. She needed him to send a message to Princess Celestia, but that could wait. There were books to read. Rarity was feeling very out of sorts. I never say things like that. Not only was it unladylike, but it's presumptuous and mean. He was responsible for a pony's death, but he didn't seem... No! I simply cannot make a judgment call. I don't know all the details. Remember, Rarity, to assume and make an ass out of you and me, she thought quietly as she worked. Rarity blinked in surprise. That was most unladylike, she said out loud. All you did was pin the hair up, Rarity, Spike said. He stood stock still, modeling a small tuxedo for a skillful and perfectly groomed pony. Rarity hadn't realized she had spoken out loud. She put down the pins. I'm sorry, Spike. I suppose I'm simply too distracted to work right now. Thank you for modeling for me, though, she said, replacing pincushion. Spike began carefully removing the tux. Do you want to talk about it? Maybe I can help, Spike offered. I shall try. Thank you, Spike, Rarity said, taking a couple of deep breaths. I may have rather said some hurtful things earlier today. That's easy, Spike said, Ravenclaw. Just apologize to the pony who said that you said those things to. I'm sure if they ever see that you really didn't mean them, they'll forgive you. Any pony who knows that you're not mean. Besides, I'm sure you couldn't have said anything that hurtful, Spike said honestly. Rarity cringed. It was really mean, darling. If it really was so bad, Rarity, you should just give them something, Spike suggested. Spike, I would never try to bribe every pony. The very notion of it is just simply ghastly and ever so tacky, Rarity said, hurt that Spike would even think of it. I'll admit, I do have my shallow moments, but I wouldn't dream of stooping so low. It'd be an insult to anyone with either a shred of decent character, and I would be debasing myself too, she thought furiously. I didn't mean bribe. Bribes are shallow. Give them something meaningful, like you put some thought and effort into it, Spike suggested. But how? I don't even know this pony, Rarity admitted. Get to know them. All seems pretty simple to me, Spike said partly under his breath. Rarity gave the earnest thought. You know, Spike, you're right. I'm going to march right over there right now and get to know him, Rarity said with a genuine conviction. Spike wilted inwardly. Him? Oh, man. Just when I thought we had a connection. Would you like to come with me, darlings? Rarity said as Spike heading for the door. Spike hid his emotions so Rarity wouldn't feel bad. No, thanks. I need to get back to the library. Twilight's probably throwing a fit, Spike said, following Rarity out the door. Rainbow Dash was having problems of her own. She had returned to the cloud house and was trying to fake a nap. The vision of the dead pony, Abracus, kept playing over and over in her head. Rainbow Dash grunted with frustration. What the hey did she mean when the time is right? When is the time right to tell someone like that? Rainbow Dash corrected herself. No, she said, when he is ready. How am I supposed to know when he is ready? She yelled. Ugh! This is so frustrating! Rainbow Dash rubbed her head with her hooves and thought out loud. I shouldn't have kept Azucris a secret from Twilight. She'll help me. She's great with weird cryptic stuff like this. Rainbow Dash swallowed her reservations and decided to bite into the proverbial bullet. She went back to tell Twilight. End of Part 3.